Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is John Scruggs, IT manager at Hobart Service in Troy, Ohio, and also chair of Technology First Infrastructure Cloud Special Interest Group. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to each one of you here with us today for our 14th annual Taste of IT. Please join me in thanking our sponsors at the Diamond level, Cincinnati State, Gold level, Cadre Checkpoint and Okta, Bronze level, 8451, ComSpark CDO, CyberRabbit, Dell, Exagrid, Extreme Networks, Franklin University, Gigamon, Nexagen, Sinclair, and Smart Data. And to our annual partners, ATC, Affidance, CareSource, Cincinnati Bell, Google, Round Tower, University of Dayton, Wright State University, and Uptime. We couldn't do this without your support. Thank you so much. All right, let's get started. Brant Comstock has been working in the IT industry for nearly 30 years. From mainframe and punch cards to current cloud technology, Brant is currently a Google customer engineer and has been an enterprise infrastructure and cloud architect with a variety of Fortune 25 companies, including IBM, Microsoft, Google, and General Electric. Brant holds an MS in predictive analytics from Northwestern University. Join me in welcoming Brant Comstock from Google as he discusses journey to the cloud, where to start, and where to end up. Brant, take it away.
All right, thanks, John. I don't know who wrote that intro, but it made me feel old realizing how long I've been doing this. So I should go ahead and share my screen. Let me know when you can see my presentation. You see that, John?
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, welcome. Good morning, everyone. I appreciate you joining this particular presentation. I did look at the lineup, and I think a lot of the topics we'll cover today kind of blend nicely into what you'll discover later as far as how you'd like to craft your journey to the cloud. You know, it's a catchy title, where to start and where to end up, but I'm going to offer our perspective about what an organization's journeys look like and what kind of cultural shifts you have to make, and what are some of the considerations and what are some of the options for migrating. Again, a little bit about myself, though I appreciate that introduction from John. I am a Google customer engineer. I am Cincinnati based. We live in Cincinnati. The accounts that I support are in Southwest Ohio. I am GCP and Azure certified. I left Microsoft in May during COVID to join Google in this area. So big topic. We're going to just touch on the tip of the iceberg here. We'll approach it from an organizational perspective and then also some of your migration options later on your journey to the cloud, but it's loaded with complex questions, right? Like, is it secure? That's number one that I find with most of my customers. Is it cost effective? And do I have the right skills in-house? I would argue that you do have the right skills in-house. It's just a matter of shifting the mindset within the organization to manage your workloads in the cloud. You might have questions like, I'm not sure how certain cloud features work. That's where somebody like a customer engineer or a cloud solutions architect would come in and sort of give you an overview from 101 perspective to 401 in-depth machine learning capabilities. And you want to understand how all your pieces will fit together architecturally. If you're just starting, I think it's important that you get expert guidance from the start. So we would come in and you really have to get organized up front. And when we talk about getting organized, we're talking about networking. How are you going to connect? Are you just going to use public facing services, or will you establish a secure VPN, or will you establish a direct connection to Google Cloud, for example, through Cloud Interconnect, because your bandwidth requirements are higher than a VPN would allow. You want to learn what is and isn't possible, and that's really through training and engagement with a customer engineer at Google. And then we start exploring solutions architectures or picking a workload that makes sense to test in the cloud. Certainly cost is a big question. So how are you going to do billing? How will you optimize your costs? How will you save money? So first you have to decide where you want to go, and this will be more from an organizational perspective. You know, is your organization typically responding by migrating to the cloud in a tactical manner, or are you being strategic about organizational change and culture, or are you wanting to be like Netflix and be transformational? So from a tactical perspective, I spent most of my career trying to do this. You're trying to reduce costs and minimize IT disruption. From a strategic perspective, you're typically trying to change an organizational culture and increase the value of IT. In a transformational culture, you're trying to elevate IT and partner with business to create solutions and become a center of innovation. From a tactical perspective, you're just moving existing workloads. Maybe you're shutting down a data center. From a strategic perspective, you're taking the opportunity to deploy an application to the cloud by making it cloud native. And in a transformational organization, you're wanting to do sophisticated things like inject machine learning into real time for your application. And this is just the topic of move, change, invent. So there's some alignment on where. Maybe you've chosen a cloud provider. Think about the how. How will you get there? How will it be safe? And how can you manage it? And really it boils down to the common theme of technology, people, and processes. So let's get into what this cloud adoption journey looks like, and then we'll touch on data center modernization or app modernization later. But the rubric of this people, process, and technology is very familiar. You've all seen it. And that's a good starting point. But they all need to work together, because when you bring people and technology together, you create skills and experience where you become a learning organization, right? You bring people and process together, you drive meaningful change. So you streamline your change control, or you streamline your adoption of risk assessment and marry it with the people who are adopting those processes, and you can provide effective leadership. Bringing together technology and processes efficiently enables you to scale and adopt new services and technology, so you can move quicker and gain full benefit of the cloud. And of course, in the center of everything is security. The move to the cloud always starts with security, and that's something you have to really assess up front. You have to examine how you're going to handle identity, who has access to what data. If you're running Active Directory on-prem, for example, how will I integrate it into Google Cloud? Those types of questions. But taking that, you're able to build a kind of a robust framework to enable your organization's success. You build a learning culture, you effectively lead, it gives you the ability to scale and secure your workloads. And again, back to this tactical, strategic, and transformational organization and topics. So let's just look at learning. In a tactical organization, there's one or two folks teaching themselves about particular cloud providers' services, but there's heavy reliance on third party. I mean, these are all common, and I think most of us on this call understand this. But in a strategic organization, you want organized training. And I set up personally for my customers a training plan from 101 to 401, depending on their maturity, and your third-party assisted. In a transformational organization like Google, we are learning from each other. We are helping to lift each other, and we're teaching each other, elevating each other's skill sets and sharing. And in an organization like that, you only access third-party for staff aug. So, like I said, if we look at this from left to right, you're a tactical versus strategic versus transformative organization. Your cloud skills are self-taught and best effort, right? But to get to a culture of continuous learning in a transformative organization, you have an organized learning strategy, and your peers are teaching each other how to do certain things within the cloud. To effectively lead, I think we've all experienced this in our organizations, teams are siloed in a tactical organization by function, and usually there's one person at the top. Maybe it's an heroic project manager trying to ensure cross-functional collaboration. But in a transformative team organization, you have cross-functional teams, and they're grouped by product. And those teams have end-to-end responsibility for that product and service, and so it offers them greater autonomy in how they mature that particular product. To efficiently scale, we all recognize change is slow. Your risk assessment process or your change control process is slow, and you only view cloud merely as a data center extension. Whereas in a cloud native environment, in a transformative organization, you can adopt frequent changes and you can lower the risk by integrating code reviews and using cloud native architectures and managed services to limit the risk of deployment of a particular service or product. And then the comprehensively secure. I don't quite agree with the left side of this in a tactical organization. I don't know if people fear the public internet, but obviously they have implicit trust in their own skills and their own network and how they've secured their perimeter. But in a transformative network like Google, you allow the right people and the device and their devices that are secured to access the right services and data when they need it, where you can enable or disable access to that data programmatically and quickly. Now, it's not as easy as left to right, obviously. You have to give it some thought. But for example, with Google, we adopt the zero trust model. So you really have access to nothing until you're in the right group where you've been given the right access to the data that you need to do your job, for example. So let's examine these personas that fall into tactical, strategic, or transformative organizations. If you're an infrastructure optimizer, it's typically a tactical role. You're trying to reduce operational costs. Typically, servers on-prem are underutilized, but let's say you're a retailer and you're preparing for Black Friday. You don't want to build out a data center environment that will handle the max capacity on a year. You can leverage the cloud to burst that compute capacity to handle the load of Black Friday, or maybe it's tax season in your H&R block. That enables you to keep your costs low on-prem, burst your capacity during the peak seasons, and then reduce it and shut it off afterwards. This is a good strategy for infrastructure optimizers, in my opinion. But how do you get to the next phase? You need to embrace cloud partnerships, and you want to foster and retain your top tech talent. When you create this learning environment and focus on tech talent to solve core business problems, I think it helps everybody feel like they're growing and maturing and contributing. And it's important to move away from software maintenance, support, and upgrades so you can focus on the work and solving the business problems. And you'd want to avoid new software builds on legacy environments. Maybe if you have an application that's coming to end of life, you rethink how you want to deploy it and maybe move that workload to the cloud and create some new muscle in how you deploy a particular application. Your cautious strategists, their goal is to change the way IT is viewed and really to change how most organizations are run and how they develop and operate their software solutions. So a good use case for this would be instead of building a data center in every country or a different region, cautious strategists could partner with Google Cloud to set up operations in essentially a data center in any country in the world, in any region, rapidly at little cost, comparatively speaking, to buying a data center and filling it with servers. It just translates to greater speed to market. It expands your market reach if you're considering going global, for example. To build on that success, you pivot from tactical cost-saving projects to more of transformational efforts. And some organizations bring in startups in-house to help them accelerate this adoption of cloud technology. It sort of gives them that boost to push them over the edge with new ideas that they can then implement for their own organization. Then you want to try to move beyond just computing and into the more advanced injection of machine learning and analytics tools into your applications. What does a transformative innovator do in an organization, or what does a transformative organization do? They want to become the sustainable engine of innovation that would power your business long term. Changing rapidly to adapt to changing markets is important, and having those services available to you in Google Cloud or any cloud provider is critical. You don't have to spend time building up that muscle, building up a CI/CD pipeline infrastructure. You can just adopt cloud technology and go. Once you get through the tactical and strategic portions of your journey, you're going to start injecting machine learning into your systems and software. You can focus on adopting engineering-driven software ops methodologies like CI/CD pipeline. So then you can view everything from a software as a service or software perspective. So your data center is a software, the networking is software, and you can manage and control that. What are they doing well? Typically, they're learning from the tech industry. So you're adopting a lot of maybe Google SRE methodologies or zero trust strategy, or the way Netflix deploys apps and you're deploying in containers, for example. This fostering in everyone as a programmer culture throughout the organization is important. You democratize the ability to come up with solutions across the organization, not just siloed in IT or in an innovation lab that has a group of folks that are working to brainstorm ideas. You can create a culture of innovation across the board, from business analysts to the back-end IT department. And then how you control data, you have to view how you handle security and how you control data. You store it in a manner where access can be easily granted or revoked, right? Right person, right device. The device is important, to the right data at the right time. And most of the services, all the services within Google enables that sort of granular access and that programmatic management of security, governance, auditing, policies that you apply across the entire organization, and monitoring. And again, a common theme, and I'll touch on it at the end, but you want to adopt machine learning production systems. You can improve trading operations, for example, in a financial or brokerage, and monitor and predict when systems are going bad, or improve your reporting with production machine learning systems. This one, committing to open source software with serverless application, that's a really mature organization. You don't have to write code from scratch. You can adopt open source, give back to open source. Google is champion of open source, of course. We open source nearly everything that we run, particularly Kubernetes, which we'll touch upon. But that's a really mature organization as we think about where we want to go. And it's not for everybody, but if your journey hasn't started yet, you have to think about what your first milestone is. And I call this low-hanging fruit, something achievable by the engineers, right? So let's pick a use case that is valuable to the business, work with your customer engineer, design an architecture, and then start kicking the tires in Google Cloud, for example, with a POC. That's where you learn. That's where you exercise those muscles as you start doing in the form of learning. And I'm in the process of setting up a few POCs for my customers now, just to learn about machine learning, for example, and how it can benefit their organization. So what do you want to achieve? You want to just do a massive lift and shift, or maybe you want to adopt Google's big data platforms and AI and ML solutions. But that requires some planning, and that's what we're here to do, to help you make that journey to the cloud and then mature. So I don't know if, John, if we want to take questions, but I'm going to go into the next section so we can hold the questions till the end. This is, you let me know.
Yeah, we'll just let folks just start queuing up questions in the chat or the Q&A, and you can just continue on, Brent.
All right, sounds good. Hopefully I still have everybody after that first part, but let's talk about a little bit about migrating to the cloud. So Google Cloud sees two primary patterns that customers want for their physical data center transformation or app modernization, really. When we talk about data center modernization, we're also talking about app modernization. This doesn't have to apply to the full data center. It can apply to an individual application. And I would say on the left, the partial migration, I call it hybrid cloud. And most of our customers, and Google recognized that with the advent of Anthos, to manage hybrid cloud from on-prem. So you're going to run stuff on-prem. You're going to run it in Google. You're going to run it at another cloud provider. But you want some of those benefits now, and you're not ready to go with a full migration, right? So we call that a partial migration. Maybe a use case is you shut down a data center that you have for DR, and you leverage Google Cloud as your for your disaster recovery. Now there are a lot of organizations, in fact, more and more every day, thinking about full migration. They don't want to be in the real estate business. They don't want to be in the server racking and stacking and cable running, power and cooling business. They just want to be in the solutions business or the software business, where they just decide to undertake a full migration. And what we're seeing are a lot of organizations shutting down data centers and leveraging cloud. And in our case, Google Cloud. They want it all. They want all the services and capabilities that maybe they can't create on-prem because of cost, that are readily available to them in the cloud. This is the Gartner Common R strategy, and Google adopts this. You know, this is a rehost for tactical organizations, or a re-platforming, which means maybe you take all your databases and you put them in a platform as a service like Cloud SQL, or you refactor entirely, and that's a complete teardown of an application, for example, and refactoring for the cloud, taking into account how you're going to scale it, how you're going to secure it, what the backends could look like, and maybe you're leveraging more cloud services rather than worrying about patching operating systems or upgrading software. But as you can see on the right, you know, as you go left to right with these strategies, your migration time and effort goes up, but long term, you can start operating in a cloud native way securely, and your organization will benefit, and you can handle changes more frequently and keep pace with your competitors. So we're going to touch on these as we go along, but just a little bit about how we would help you rehost in a tactical organization. You can migrate with VMware Engine using Hybrid Cloud Extension, running your VMware cluster in Google's data center, or you could use Migrate for Compute Engine. If you want to re-platform, maybe containerize some of your apps and VMs, you could use Migrate for Anthos. And if you want to refactor and really become mature and you want to get to serverless, you can leverage Cloud Run or Cloud Functions, or build out your CI/CD infrastructure, or not have to worry about building out your CI/CD pipeline infrastructure and just leverage Cloud Build for deployments. So how to simplify what is a pretty complex task, cloud migration or an application migration to a cloud provider. We use a simple methodology and iterate over it through a migration project. I mean, most importantly, we will assess and help evaluate your IT landscape. You don't want to know which servers are where, what the dependencies are. The majority of the time should be spent in planning, and with the tools that we offer, we can help you plan and what should move in what order, and then you migrate. That's the action. I think the most important thing at the end is to optimize. So once you're done moving, optimize. Start integrating Stackdriver or cloud operations. Start enabling Cloud Armor or DLP. Really start optimizing and improving and reducing costs once you're running a workload in Google Cloud. So that just helps accelerate the cloud migration. I am in all parts of this. In all parts of this, the assessment, the planning, the migration. Usually we partner because that's a heavy lift and it does take time to run through that project, and then how to optimize, and then explore what services you can integrate with the application that you've migrated. And this is what it looks like over a migration project. You can see you just iterate each time. And as you iterate through the waves, you do get faster because you're learning as you're going. You're changing plans, but it's important to assess every time, not just each wave will be different, and then to optimize each time. Like I said, we'll provide tools to help you understand your databases, your applications, and your environment. We have a tool called StrataZone that can help map out your physical and virtual servers, explore dependencies and compatibilities. And then within StrataZone, we can also identify how to right size your VMs. As we've said, your VMs are typically underutilized on-prem. We can right size to help save with costs, or we can identify a platform that you can run on instead of moving the VMs. Maybe you pump all the data into Cloud SQL, or you run your applications on Google App Engine, for example, and it takes out the infrastructure, and then you're just running on platforms as a service. These are just examples of migration wave planning. It'd be great if we all had an application to migrate that we were trying to identify for a candidate for a POC that has high business value but low effort. That is an ideal candidate for POC. I would argue if you look at wave 3, if you can see this, low business value, low effort might be a good candidate to kick the tires on Google Cloud, for example. There's low risk, but you can get it to the cloud quickly, and then you can start operating and understanding how you want to map out your organization, how you want to handle identity, what the networking looks like, and how you want to manage firewalls and access, right? But anyway, if you take on this wave example, high business value, low effort, you can quickly migrate and then show value, which might help speed up and gain traction for adoption throughout your organization. And then the learning from that wave 1, as you assess your next wave, you take something that has high business value and high effort and apply your learnings to how to handle a complex migration. Wave 4, low business value, high effort. I'll say that these might be identified as applications that you want to sunset or maybe leave on-prem. So every workload is different, but what that cycle looks like is your assess and planning and optimization are the same, but which migration path are you going to take? Are you going to modernize and refactor, transform and modernize the application, or are you just going to rehost, possibly re-platform, which is fairly easy to move from SQL databases to Cloud SQL. And then again, like I identified in wave 4, your legacy systems, decide whether you're going to sunset them or you're just going to leave them on premise until they fulfill their life cycle, as you explore how to deploy something better in Google Cloud. And then you just iterate through this workflow over and over until you've achieved what you want. And optimization helps you move from that tactical organization to a transformative organization, because the more you do, the more you learn, the more you can adopt and the more you can improve. Google likes to say we meet customers where they are, whether you want to lift and shift, obviously with VMware Engine or Compute Engine, but we recognize that increasingly most organizations have some sort of hybrid model. So that's where we provide Anthos, but we can enable you to improve and move with Migrate for Anthos, where you're running workloads in Kubernetes. Or you can just simply build out cloud native apps once you're there. Some of our computing products, we offer bare metal as a service, VMware Engine, so running your VMware cluster in our data center, Compute and Kubernetes Engine. Now, this doesn't happen all the time. It's not as easy as this, but it's an example, the evolution of a virtual server or an application running on a VM. You copy or move that particular VM into Google Compute Engine. The important part is to decouple the stateful from the stateless. So move the data, backend it into a database, or store it in Google Cloud Storage. That allows you to add elastic scaling to those stateless VMs. And then maybe you want to save money. You can right size and use preemptible VMs. And then maybe you want to take that step to modernize and containerize for Kubernetes. Briefly, and we go into organizations and talk about this particular solution, and this solution exists on all three major clouds. Just it depends on how they're operating. But you can migrate your VMs directly into Google Cloud VMware Engine, and what it looks like is this. I mean, you're running on dedicated nodes, you're running your own vCenter in Google Cloud, and as I said earlier, you can migrate hundreds, thousands of VMs with HCX directly into an extension of your current VMware environment with a dedicated connection to Google Cloud. Migrate for Compute Engine. Maybe you want to reduce your VMware licensing costs. We offer Migrate for Compute Engine, and you can migrate from any cloud or on-prem to Google. It will refactor your VM and right-size it based on the StratoZone assessment, telling us how much of that VM is actually being used. It improves scale and agility and security. You have more options for these capabilities running in Google Cloud than you do on-prem, and it's a lot less work to scale a VM, for example. But maybe you want to lift and modernize. Migrate for Anthos allows you to migrate and auto-containerize qualified VM-based workloads from on-prem or other clouds directly into Google Kubernetes Engine. So it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both. It can be a variety of things. In organizations I've worked for, if there was a new project coming online, we had a cloud-first mentality. Will this run in the cloud? Will it run better in the cloud? How much will it cost us? Now I see organizations adopting a cloud smart strategy where they assess whether they can run it on-prem, or if not, they evaluate where to run it and who has the best services in a multi-cloud world. Anyway, a little bit about lift and shift, and I'll run through a generic application here, but what is it? We all know it's moving applications as they exist to the cloud. When to use it, when speed is necessary. So say you're shutting down a data center, or this is a time-driven event, coming up on licensing renewal or something. This is the fastest way to do it, and there's little need or appetite for change. So you just want to operate in the cloud and get out of your data center. This is what a typical 3-tier app looks like. I think we're all familiar with it, front-ended with a load balancer, web tier, logic or app tier, and then back-ended with data. What it would look like in lift and shift is similar, right? But more capabilities and more services to integrate, hundreds of services to then take advantage of once you've gotten this move to the cloud. Front-ended with Google Cloud Load Balancer, Cloud Armor. You can now scale your web front-end seamlessly by placing them into managed instance groups. Same with the app server, enable auto scaling, and then backend all the data into a centralized cloud SQL instance. Pros and cons, I won't cover them all. I think, some of these are debatable, but it is the easiest migration. You use your existing tools and skills. Not many tools need to change, and it's the fastest way to get there, to get to the cloud. And this is really infrastructure, right? Not really elevating to platforms as a service or adopting software as a service like Office 365 or Gmail. Some of your cons are, it's not highly managed. I'd like to call that out. So what we mean by that is you're still patching the OS, you're still upgrading the software, you're still managing the environment. And I think the goal is to get to the business of solutions, not really the business of managing servers. And you might want to look at adopting platforms as a service like App Engine or Kubernetes Engine, where the work of building a Kubernetes cluster is taken away, and you don't have to focus on the complexity of Kubernetes. And really, this graph represents that we're just moving, but it shows the differences between private data center on the left, public cloud on the right. Hopefully you're working towards becoming transformative and becoming serverless and injecting auto scaling in everything and high availability, and that you can have a global presence. Gradual modernization path, they don't all work this way. Of course, nothing works as planned, but take that VM and migrate it, and then interject managed instance groups for horizontal scaling. And maybe you modernize by containerizing the app and building out with Cloud Build, interject that container into the build pipeline and deploy it to Kubernetes. That's how you mature from VMs to cloud native. And there are other presentations later in the day that I see address all of these topics more in depth. Improve and move, this is where you modernize an app. Maybe it needs an upgrade or an updated version. And so if there's going to be some changes applied to it, you're modernizing the app in the process of migrating it. Maybe the current infrastructure isn't supported in a cloud provider. So you have to rethink how you're going to gain that functionality on Google Cloud. It's a good exercise to go through, and really what it looks like, your 3-tier app example up front would then adopt more platform services. You still have the cloud load balancing up front. This is a global load balancer, and maybe you're using Google Cloud's DNS, and you would front end it instead of on a VM with App Engine. It would serve up the web tier and the application tier, and you would not be managing a server. It auto scales, it's secure, and then you integrate it with Memcache, for example. Placing static content, separating it out to Google Cloud Storage or a database, maybe managing the dynamic content for the users that are accessing the application in Cloud SQL or Cloud Data Store. So it's not a huge change, but it's significant enough to improve how you operate that particular application. Pros and cons, portable, scalable, highly available. Availability is key. Some of the cons, there might be a little bit of refactoring. It might require new tools and updated skill sets. I would argue that most organizations have the skill sets in-house. They just need to rethink how they're applying them. It does take a little bit longer than lift and shift, but we just announced that we have a serverless database migration service available to customers. That makes data movement easy, and moving from one database into Cloud SQL, a platform, easy and quick. And really, you're moving and modernizing at the same time here. So hopefully you're getting over to the upper right quadrant of this graph. So what is rip and replace? It's kind of a harsh term, but it's really refactoring, a complete rewriting an application for and in the cloud. It's a bigger undertaking for most organizations that maybe don't have a large developer team on staff, or they don't write their own applications, but this is one way to migrate an application to a cloud. Say the current application isn't meeting the goals, so you rewrite it and you want to improve the capabilities running on Google Cloud. Or maybe the application isn't worth maintaining from a licensing, financial perspective, or technically. All the servers required to run it cost too much. Same application before, and what that might look like after is radically different. You're running the code on App Engine, running your authentication against App Engine. Maybe you can adopt real-time streaming into PubSub, or you have massive data loads that you want to batch up and put to cloud storage. Then you process that data with Cloud Data Flow. You're not talking servers here. You're talking capabilities. You're talking services. And then you start building out that enterprise data warehouse onto BigQuery and enable your business analysts to explore with Looker or Tableau, right? It's not as easy as this. All architectural diagrams look simple. There are a lot of considerations and a lot of planning that goes into this, but this is what it looks like to get to that transformative state in your cloud adoption journey. Some of the pros and cons, sorry, I had to drink a little bit of water. It takes full advantage of the cloud. You become, and I hear it all the time. We don't want to be Google, but we don't want to be Netflix. I don't know if that's really what we're saying here. What we're saying here is you can be faster, more secure, come up with creative solutions for your organization and for your end user and customer with all these services that are available in the cloud. But anyway, it takes full advantage of the cloud. When we say it removes technical debt, obviously you're out of the server business, the upgrade business, the life cycle business of a data center. And yeah, it's easily scalable, highly available, and highly managed. Certainly doesn't work for off-the-shelf apps. It would require some code rewrite. It definitely takes longer and more effort than lift and shift. And you may need more skills or different types of skills in your developers to help you achieve this. And you will have to reevaluate your existing plans for that particular application. Now it has a new 3-year strategy for how you're going to improve that application once it's refactored. So that's kind of it for how you'd migrate an app or a data center. And it wouldn't be a Google presentation if we didn't touch on what we do best, really. Use cases for big data platform and ML services in the cloud. So this is really kind of maturing your organization and injecting machine learning everywhere in your operations. But let's just take a simple use case about, let's say you have Teradata or Oracle running your enterprise data warehouse on-prem. Why not create a centralized, and typically data is scattered all over an organization, right? So why not create a data warehouse on BigQuery in Google Cloud? And we give you a variety of ways to do that, but it's a quick and easy use case if you want to get off your legacy hardware and move to more of a platform as a service. We have a tool called Illuma that would take that data and pump it directly into BQ, making that available, standard SQL to your business analysts at the end. Or if you have to transform some of the data, you can stage it out from cloud storage, run data flow and data prep against it, and then put it into BigQuery. The slides just to suggest that we can help you in something like a data warehouse use case on BigQuery and every stage of that maturity. We partner with familiar names. And just a little bit about analytics in general. I think what we've all seen in traditional BI and reporting, it's mostly descriptive or diagnostic analytics. The sophistication, it's not low, but to scale, you want to be in the business of looking at your data and identifying trends and predicting or offering prescriptive analytics. And adopting cloud services really helps you rapidly mature that space. There are AI and machine learning services throughout, embedded in and available to all our customers on Google Cloud Platform, where you can become more mature in how you're analyzing your data. Maybe it's text to speech or document AI, where you're trying to gather all these documents and mine it for insights, whereas looking at them individually would take forever. And you can just run it against document AI, for example. And I really won't go into this, but if there are data engineers or data scientists on this particular presentation, you'll recognize the life cycle of building out a machine learning model. And what I want to say here is that Google Cloud obviously has all the services and tools to help you quickly move through and iterate your machine learning use cases, building out the model, presenting it for production, and then tuning it. We're working with customers every day in all spaces, all verticals, to help them improve and explore machine learning. Retail, obviously, recommendation engines and market segmentation are pretty common use cases. But in financial services, we're working with customers on fraud detection, you name it. There is nothing you can't explore, and we're here to help you explore those machine learning possibilities in your environment. Cool. And, quickly to summarize, whether you're using a partner or you're building skills in-house, maturing your organization to become a learning organization, that's what you need to decide. And then pick the right app or use case to move first. Then plan your migration type. Are you just going to lift and shift, or are you going to modernize? And then again, execute, operate, and repeat until you're through your migration or your cloud journey. And that's it for me. I appreciate your time. Hopefully everybody's still with us.
All right. Thanks so much, Brant. That was a great session. Really appreciate it. And special thanks to Google Cloud, our featured sponsor for this session. Remember to complete the survey for each session by finding the link in My Agenda session descriptions, which is the same place you click to join this session. By participating in the survey, you make your voice heard and are helping shape the future of Technology First events. Thank you for taking the time to fill out the survey. And now let's take a break. The next session starts at 10 o'clock. Use this time to grab a snack, visit exhibitors, and explore the event platform. There are game codes you can earn by exploring the app, so go to the Event Game tab to learn more. And the game code for attending this session is Journey. We'll see y'all soon.
John, I ran a little long there, didn't I? You still there, John?
Good morning. Looks like I got kicked out. I'm back in now.
Is that Tom?
It's John.
Oh, hey, John.
Hey, how you guys doing?
We're hanging in there. How do we look?
You look very professional.
Ah.
If that wasn't the your goal, then sorry, that's what you look like. So
I'm going to go a little more casual. I'm going to put my ATC ball cap and my my Ring Central hoodie on after this.
Awesome.
So, yeah, we got we're in a black box studio. We got a live booth. Did you see the next dev phones that are coming out?
Yeah, looks like it's got touch interface there. Yeah,
Yeah,
really good.
yeah. We're really excited about it. We're rolling that out in the new year. So, I mean, it's an upgrade from the rotary. You know, it's a touch, so it's a button.
For sure. So we'll start right at 10. I've got an intro to read for you guys. Good seeing you again, by the way.
Yeah,
And
likewise.
then yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, and then we'll jump in, and it goes till 10:45. So I may or may not jump in and give you a little bit of a warning, just in case on time.
Okay.
Hey, John, we're going to do just a quick share to make sure we can share what we're looking for here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which one is it, Louis?
This-
No, yeah, please.